Curiosities of Lotus Asia began its serialization on January 2004, which makes it pretty old at this point. For context, the most recent game dev released was Touhou 7, which is kind of insane to think about how much of Touhou didn't exist at the point that this was being written. The initial serialization would end in December 2007 and would later be compiled into a novel in 2010. If you've ever had the impression that the world of Touhou is a world without men, well, it can often feel like that, you'd be wrong. Curiosities of Lotus Asia follows the daily life of Renosuke and his curiosity shop. Thank you to my supporters. If you like the video, consider subscribing or even joining the Patreon, link on screen and in the description. If you do, you'll be thanked in the videos, be able to watch each video a week early, as well as gain access to bonus videos. Somewhere in between the human village and the Forest of Magic is the Curiosity Shop Korindo, ran by its proprietor Renosuke Morichika. The half-yokai, half-human Renosuke mostly chooses to stock his store with things from the outside world that have slipped into Gensokyo. But here's the thing about Renosuke. He's kind of a shitty businessman. For one thing, his choice of location ended up biting him in the ass as he's too close to the Forest of Magic for the human villagers to swing by, and too close to the village for yokai to come shopping. So this results in, for the most part, fucking no one who is actually there to shop. But even if someone does come by to start slinging some bands, there's no guarantee that Renosuke would be willing to let go of some of the inventory. Renosuke is very interested in the things from the outside world, and if he ends up growing attached to or finding an item to his liking, he's not letting that shit go. He's also a bit self-aware at the fact that he's a fuck-ass businessman. When he ended up getting a cool fucking sword from Marisa, he thinks to himself, Korindo's collection of items that are not for sale has just increased by 1. Well, the first step is admitting you have a problem. Renosuke is fucking weird to me. His choice to be Touhou's first printed work protagonist is a curiosity. The natural expectation for something like this is for the protagonist to be the same protagonist as the games, that being Reimu. But being from the future and seeing that Reimu was never given that protagonist role in the written works, we can see that we are never intended to get Reimu's point of view. So then the next assumption would be, why not Marisa for the protagonist role? But she isn't. Instead we get Renosuke, who, for all intents and purposes, is a shut-in. The guy sees no fucking point in going outside his store, and I can feel him for it. We in here shut-in maxing. This isn't entirely true. He does go outside in Curiosities of Lotus Asia. Once. He went to the human village to talk to Marisa's father and Akyu about cicadas. That's it. That's the only time Renosuke ever fucking leaves Korindo. The next protagonists we would get in the written works would be the 3 Fairies of Light. These are characters that are designed to explore Gensokyo and get into antics, and through their lens do we also get to explore Gensokyo. But with Renosuke, we don't explore Gensokyo physically. The reason why Renosuke is able to open up a shop dealing in goods not native to Gensokyo is because of his ability. Any item that Renosuke touches, he is able to know the name and purpose of. He's able to touch a heater, for example, and know that it is a heater and that it warms up a space. Except that this ability has a major blind spot. Just because he knows what it is and its purpose does not mean that he knows how it works. This shit is evident even in Chapter 1. Renosuke is talking about computers, and he starts going off about his tweaker theory, like computers use F, which is 15, and 15 is also the full moon, so computers are powered by the moon, and bro, you're just spouting bullshit. He's just constantly making shit up. There's a whole chapter where he has a Game Boy and he starts tweaking out hard, thinking that the Game Boy will give anyone the power of gods. And because Yukari just wants the Game Boy, he starts freaking the fuck out and grabs the nearest hammer and tries to smash it. Actually, deranged conclusions. But while Renosuke isn't used as a physical exploration of Gensokyo, his ability provides us an exploration of Gensokyo culturally and technologically. There's a couple chapters about computers, and Renosuke has come to the conclusion that these are the Shikigami of the outside world. As in, a tool you give instructions and it will carry it out, and he's not necessarily wrong. He also later comes to the realization that computers and Shikigami have the fundamental difference that Shikigami are spirits turned into tools and computers are tools turned into spirits. Through Renosuke's conclusions that would be natural to Gensokyo native, and comparisons of objects mundane and typical to us, we can see where Gensokyo stands. Their understanding of how things work is through the spirits and the gods, which makes sense. When you've got actual gods walking around, no shit your worldview and understanding of how things work will be based on those principles. Now, if you're wondering what happened in Curiosities of Lotus Asia, fucking nothing happens. The book is a collection of short stories about Ryunosuke's daily life with zero overarching story. You can, for the most part, read these chapters out of order and not be confused whatsoever. And this shit is the most mundane and slice of life I've ever seen. There's an entire chapter that's literally about running out of fuel for a heater. That's it. That's all that fucking chapter is about, and I'm serious about that. There's also a chapter that is a Japanese etymology lesson about the relationship between the number 8 and the knight, and also an explanation on Yukari's 15-layered name pun. It's comical how mundane each and every chapter is. There's one chapter that's just trying to sell Sakuya some fucking cups, man. But it would be a lie to say these chapters didn't have their interesting or enjoyable parts to them. The biggest thing that makes Curiosities of Lotus Asia enjoyable is the interactions between the characters. This is something that's generally true for the Touhou print works as a whole, and is true here. The dialogue in the inner monologue is filled with personality, and it's genuinely impressive how quickly and how deeply you come to understand a character in the print works. Curiosities of Lotus Asia is no exception. Every chapter has Ryunosuke spending part of his day with another character. Some of them are their first time meeting each other. As it turns out, Ryunosuke ends up bullying Yomu, nervous around Yukari, and stun-locked by Sakuya on each of their first encounters. Man, Sakuya is such an airhead rolling low on wisdom, and I love her. She sees a broken cup and thinks that shit is an avant-garde design. That bitch dumb as hell, and she's great for it. But the two people who visit Ryunosuke most often are Reimu and Marisa. Ryunosuke doesn't think the highest of Reimu. No wonder she got so good at grazing all the fucking strays from all the shit talk thrown at her. One of my favorite aspects of the print works is the constant slander being said about the other characters. It's hilarious. But the second most important character in Curiosities of Lotus Asia would be Marisa. Ryunosuke gives off airs of being detached from Marisa. There's a part where Marisa comes in from the rain and Ryunosuke thinks to himself, what I saw was a black and wet lump. Despite presenting himself as detached, his actions say otherwise and really shows that he knows her really well and cares a lot about her. When Marisa asked for Ryunosuke to repair the mini Hakudo, Ryunosuke told her it'd be done in 4 days, knowing it'd only take 3 and that she'd arrive 1 day early anyway. This type of shit you only do for people you've known practically your whole life. Very often, he will put shit Marisa takes on her tab, but we can all tell that the tab is bullshit and probably doesn't intend on forcing payment. Throughout the book, we learn a lot about Marisa and how integral Ryunosuke was to who she is today. For one thing, Ryunosuke originally made her mini Hakudo, but also Marisa's fixation on star magic likely originated while watching a meteor shower at Korindo. The two of them have a sibling-type relationship going on, and it's a genuinely sweet thing to read. Also, depending on the page, Marisa will have blue or yellow eyes. Same with Sakuya for some reason. Maybe colored contacts are popular in Gensokyo. When it comes to Curiosities of Lotus Asia, I don't think most people would enjoy reading this. The content of it is hyper mundane, and there are several chapters dedicated to nothing really happening. The book is primarily about characters talking to each other, which is either a really good thing or a really boring thing depending on who you are and what you want out of the shit you read. I enjoyed that aspect of this book though, but that's because I'm a crazy person and already deep into Touhou, and that's the only kind of person I can recommend this to. Someone crazy and already deep in the Touhou and wants to get their hands on anything and everything officially made for it. And one last thing. Curiosities of Lotus Asia shortens down to cola, and there's a chapter where he drinks some cola. I've got no idea if this was an intentional pun or not.